Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another product review. And as you can see from the box that's in my hand, we're going to be taking a look at another optic from OSight. And this is one of their latest ones. It's a fully enclosed red dot that utilizes the RMR footprint, so it's one of their larger models. This is the XE AMRS, and that stands for the Advanced Multi-Reticle System. And I've been pretty impressed with many of the OSights that I have reviewed in the past. But often, while they come in red and green varieties, they often only have one or maybe two reticles. I believe this one has 5 according to the box. So I think they're trying to add a lot of variety and enhance the electronics that are in their optics. So this could be a really interesting upgrade and give a lot of shooters a lot of possibilities with how they want to utilize it on their carry guns. And in this review, I'm going to get out my trusty Walther PDP. I already have an OSight attached to this one, so I'm going to change it out. We're going to take it to the range and see if it works just as good as all of the others. And I'll let you know what the reticles look like and of course make sure the electronics in it work well. So the first thing I want to do is adjust the camera, give you some close-ups of it, get it out of the box, mount it to the pistol, and then we'll take it to the range and see how it works. So this is the box the OSight XE AMRS comes in. We get all the warnings on the outside, but we do get to see all of the various reticles. We have a 2 MOA dot, a 2 MOA dot with a 32 MOA circle, a 6 MOA dot, that same dot with the circle and the circle by itself. Let's go ahead and open this up. And we get the usual thank you for buying our product message. We get some swag and a sticker. I do like the fact that when you get an OSight with a red reticle, the dot in the logo is red, and when it's green, it's green. It's a nice little touch that I've noticed when I'm opening these boxes. Of course, we get the information on how to zero it. We get the optic. It has a nice cover on it. But before we take that off, let's see what else we get. We get the typical OSight tool. I'm assuming all of the mounting hardware in here. And the user manual. When I mount it, I'll open that up and see how this thing works. I'm assuming it's going to be just like all of the rest. That cover is actually really nice. It's a very thick cover. It's not chintzy. All right, so there it is. And that red dot is fully enclosed. I'm not used to seeing that with an RMR footprint. We do have some backup iron sights here on the rear. We got the controls on the side like usual. There's the OSight logo, and it does say XE AMRS. We have the adjustments for elevation and windage in the usual place. We got the battery compartment on the side, so this one does not use that top charger. I do like these battery compartments. I'll have to take out that screw and remove that tab so the battery, which obviously is installed, will work. But right now, I don't see any issues with it whatsoever. It does seem to be a little bit shorter than the other OSights. Here is the OSight C mounted to my Walther PDP. You can see how tall it is, and you can see how that one is a little bit shorter. So, looks about the same, but of course this one is fully enclosed, and I know that's kind of all the rage now. All right, so we look good here. So let me go ahead and get out the mounting hardware. Let me mount it to the pistol. Let me make sure there's no issues with that. Then we'll go over how to use it, its features and specs, and then we'll take it to the range and make sure it works. And here I have the OSight XE AMRS mounted to the Walther PDP. It mounts just like it should. It is secure. It is tight. It looks good on there. I do like the fact it is not as tall as the other ones. And there again is that OSight C. And even though it is a little bit shorter, we still have a very large field of view. It does have a motion sensor, and it is on by default, but you can disable it. But the rest of the controls of this optic are rather simplistic. You have the settings for illumination here on the side. Of course, you have the adjustments for windage and elevation. You have the battery compartment on the side. The typical OSight tool works with it. And I got all the screws I needed for the Walther in the box. When it comes to the reticles, the default is the 2 MOA dot, and I'm not sure if the camera is going to be able to focus on that, but it is there. The dot is very clear. I personally like the 2 MOA dot, and if you want to toggle between the reticles, you hold the down arrow for 2 seconds, and it will change. And let me do that and see if I can make it a little bit brighter here on camera. Maybe I can't. It's on there. That's going to be the 2 MOA dot with the circle. If you push it again, you get that 6 MOA dot, which I know you can't see. And then do it again, you get the 6 MOA dot with the circle. And my only complaint about that one is the dot is quite large as compared to the circle, and I don't think that one is a good reticle at all. It's just too busy, and there's just too much of it. I think it can obstruct your target, and then if you want, you can have just the circle. But that is really easy to toggle between. I will try out all the reticles at the range, but I think my default's going to be the 2 MOA dot. So let me give you some close-ups here of the side, how it mounts. It's flush. There's the top. It does not have a automatic illumination setting. I can't see the sensor on it, and the instruction manual doesn't talk about it. So I think you have to set that by yourself. That's the way I like to run mine, but I know some people like things automated. And it does kind of look a little bit goofy on this pistol with those 2 backup iron sights, but I guess they're kind of nice to have. But there you go, the OSight XE AMRS. All right, so the next thing I want to do, of course, is take this to the range. This sight is unzeroed, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'll shoot the pistol, see where its point of impact is, then I'll see how easy it is to adjust it, and I do want to test the adjustments for the click when it comes to the turrets, and yeah, they are tactile and audible. Not super strong, but they are there. All right, so let's go to the range, let's zero this optic, and let's see what we discover about it. And like all of the other OSights I have reviewed, the XE AMRS is easy to zero, especially with the supplied tool. If I had to be hypercritical, the only thing I wish that could be a little bit different is the clicks could be a little bit stronger and more positive, and that would give me more confidence that it's going to hold zero. But with all of the other OSights I have reviewed and shot in the past, I've never had a problem with them coming unzeroed. So their system works. It would just make me feel a little bit better. And sometimes when you're just trying to do 1 or 2 clicks, because you don't feel them as well, you can easily overshoot it. And it just takes you a little bit more time. But once it's zeroed, it does seem to hold. based off of all the other ones, as I said, that I have reviewed. I also want to try out all of the different reticles. And so because we started off at just 7 yards, I used the 6 MOA dot. Typically, I'm not a big fan of the larger dots, but I know a lot of people like them because they are easier to acquire. All right, so the next test I want to run is to simply double the distance of this target, and the reticle I'm going to choose for this one is the 6 MOA dot with a 32 MOA circle. So let's go back to the range, put some more rounds through this gun with this OSight, and see what I discover. And I think my results here are okay, but I knew this was probably going to be my least favorite reticle. It's way too busy. And because it's a 6 MOA dot encapsulated in a 32 MOA circle, if you're not really paying attention and the brightness settings get a little bit too much, it kind of looks like a big 32 MOA dot, and it covers so much of the target. I don't really feel like you could be very precise with it. But you might love it. You might want something that's just gigantic that you can acquire really fast. But for me, it's way too bright and way too busy. So in the next test, which is the 25-yard accuracy test, I'm going to switch the reticle to the 2 MOA dot. Typically, this is my favorite reticle with a red dot. When it comes to pistols, I want something super simple and very small and precise. So let's go back to the range and see what the best group I can get with this setup is. And for an optic mounted to a duty or range handgun, this is definitely the reticle to have. And I guess I'm just a simple person, but having that small dot makes me feel like I can shoot more precisely, and I can see most of the target at this distance. The reticle isn't too busy, and I can adjust the illumination settings to what I need. The 2 MOA dot is just the way to go. And even though there's so many companies out there today that offer these red dots with so many different options, I just want one with the smallest dot possible that's going to stay on and be durable. Now, speaking of this optic being durable, the OSights really seem to be. So the next test is I'm just going to put a mag dump through this pistol. I want to make sure that this remains securely mounted to the top of the slide and that I don't have any issues with the battery or the internal electronics. And no, this is not going to be a torture test where I put thousands and thousands of rounds through it, because there's so many other channels that do that. And I've been shooting these OSights for quite some time, and for me, they've just held up. But of course, I just want to put it through this one simple, short test. I'll tell you if I experience anything, and then after that, we're going to retest it for 0. And just like all of the other OSights I have reviewed, I experienced no flickering. The sight remains securely mounted to the slide. The battery internally, obviously, is in there securely. I don't think you're going to have any problems. And I've been shooting these OSights for some time and haven't had any issue. But I do know if you happen to have a problem, OSight will take care of you. I've seen many comments in my videos where people did have something on them break, and OSight took care of it immediately. I am very impressed by the stories about their customer service. So is this going to be a durable optic? I definitely think for an average gun person, it would be. Now, is this going to be a go-to-war optic where you're going to jump out of an airplane into a battlefield in the Middle East? Probably not. You probably want to go with a Trijicon on that. But I think for most of your needs, it's going to be just fine. These really do seem to be durable, and they get better in every single generation. You also saw that I used the 2 MOA dot and the 32 MOA circle reticle in this test. While I'm not a huge fan of that circle, this one is serviceable. I could use it if I had to. I still think it's a little bit busy, but I could still see the target just fine. I'm just not a big fan of that 6 MOA dot with that circle. All right, so the last test I want to do is essentially shoot the first test again. I've put a few rounds to this gun, and now I want to make sure it has remained zeroed this whole time. And as expected, it held zero. It performs like all of the other OSights. The big advantage to this is the multiple reticle system and, in my opinion, the window that is a little bit shorter. I do like that. I've always felt like the other OSights were simply too tall, and depending on the gun they were mounted to, could look a little bit goofy. So what are my final thoughts with the OSight XE AMRS, or the Advanced Multiple Reticle System? Well, it works. This is just like all of the other OSights, and while I'm a big fan of just the basic 2 MOA dot, which really is kind of the industry standard when it comes to most optics like this, I can definitely see the advantage to something with all of these options, because I know not everybody is like me, and you're going to want to use those reticles in various situations depending on your own personal preferences. So is the sight easy to use? Yes. Do you have tons of options? Yes. Does it seem durable? Yes. I really have no issues with it. It's performed great. While I might not use all of its functionality, you might. But I'm also a big fan of the shape of this one. As I mentioned, that hood is a little bit lower. I think it looks a little bit better, and you still get a great field of view. So on my star system, how would I rate the OSight XE AMRS? Well, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stars. It does everything it's supposed to do, and it kind of exceeded my expectations. These are getting better every time I get a chance to review them. I really feel like OSight is a great competitor to those bigger brands that you all know. And while they might not be as durable, because they're definitely not as expensive, maybe one day they will be. This really is a great red dot for an average gun person. So let me know what you think about red dots, and more specifically enclosed red dots, and maybe ones with multiple reticle systems. Do you like to use all of the functionality, or do you find one reticle you like and stick with it? So, as always, thanks for watching.